So for tonight, we're doing this program called MS Conversations Now. I have not done this in a while. I wanted to bring it back because I wanted to speak with the Digmanns, who both have multiple sclerosis. But that's something else, and we'll get into that title in a moment. So for tonight, though, for those that don't know, I am Stuart Schlossman. I'm president and founder of MS Views and News, and I am also a patient living with multiple sclerosis. So tonight we are supported by our organization, MS Views and News. All right, so going forward, we have the Digmanns. We have Jennifer on the right. No, I'm joking. That's Dan, but you could tell that, right? Okay, so we have Jennifer, as you can tell, Jennifer and Dan, all right? And Jennifer and Dan Digmann, they both do a lot in the MS community, and, I have questions for them. But before I get started with them, I want to let everybody know that who supports what we do, and I just wanted to say thank you. Okay, it is almost November. I haven't said much of this year, but I do greatly appreciate those that have supported our programs for what we are doing to benefit the MS community. So thank you very much. All right, Digmanns, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well.
I'm doing great. I'm going to just start right away in the questions. All right, and the first one is, what gave you the First of all, tell me where you live. All right, tell everybody where you live.
We live in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and if you have like your geographic here, we're like right in the middle of the Lower Peninsula, so about an hour north of Lansing.
Gotcha. And speaking about that, so what got you involved with doing the things that you do for your local community?
Being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Dan and I were diagnosed 2 decades ago when there weren't the resources available that are now more easily accessed. And it was depressing, Stuart. You know, that time we just wanted to get our voices out and show that people live with multiple sclerosis and live good lives.
I think that's it. Just, when you're first diagnosed, you want to find somebody who speaks to you. And this is like, I wanted to be out there just to show that life doesn't end with a multiple sclerosis diagnosis, and just to be active and moving forward and being your own best advocate. So I think it was just like, and one thing led to another, and then it just snowballed from there.
Okay, thank you for that. Before I continue with the questions, if anybody online is watching and they have any questions for Dan or Jennifer, please write them down, and so you don't forget what you were going to ask. And then after all of my questions for them, I'm going to reach out to the audience and see if you have anything for them. So to do that, though, at the top right of the toolbar is a red or orange box, depending on how your server sees it. There's an arrow in there. Click on that, please. And then just type in your questions. And again, I will get to them approximately about 8 o'clock or sooner, depending on how quick we go through these questions. All right, so let's go forward now. Let's get started with these crazy questions that we got for you all right? What gave you the confidence to move forward with a relationship knowing that you're living with somebody with multiple sclerosis?
For me, it's just knowing, having faith in my partner. I mean, I think it's, there were a lot of things that stand against you when living with MS, but I think there was just like this confidence that there's nothing we couldn't handle together. And so I think it's just, it was just like the faith in each other and faith in God that you're just like, we can handle this, we can do this. I think just what you go through when you're diagnosed with MS, and just looking how far I had come from point of diagnosis to the day I met her, you're just like, I can do this, and now I've got a partner in crime.
Sure. Jennifer, what do you say about it?
I think anyone can have something bad happen to them. Car accident, illness. When I met Dan, he was just as healthy as he is now, and I didn't want to look at it from the standpoint like, oh no, what if he gets worse, or what if I get worse? I wanted to say, what if we just keep going and doing well?
Sure. So let me ask you a question. When were you both diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in November 14th of 1997. I was 23 years old. So, I mean, it was pretty life altering for me. I had just graduated from college and I had a pretty rapid progression. So that for me, it was a long 25 years ago almost.
And for me, I was diagnosed on Valentine's Day of 2000. And so it's been, 22 plus years. And I was actually 27 when I was diagnosed.
Okay, gotcha. And can I ask what forms of MS you both have?
I'm still relapsing remitting.
And mine is secondary progressive.
Are either one of you on medication?
We both are.
Yep.
Can I ask what you use?
Yeah, because actually it was just a week ago today I had my third infusion with Ocrevus. I had been on Betaseron for 22 plus years, but your body can only handle so many injections over how many years. I used to count how many, and then you're just like, my body couldn't handle anymore.
And I currently am taking Rituxan. It's like the stepsister to Ocrevus, and I've been on that for maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
I had been on other medications, but that seems to be holding me. I would say I'm pretty stable.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Hey, the two of you, it's not just questions for the two of you, but I want to let you know some. Dan, you're talking about being pinpricked. When I was first diagnosed, I was put on to, I started using Avonex, all right? So it was a once a week medication, all right? And that was fine. But a couple months later, me and the doctor decided that I was still exacerbating a lot. So it put me also onto Copaxone, So I was doing 7 shots a week from the Copaxone and the 1 shot a week, which was the intramuscular, all right?
Yeah.
Then 2 years later, when Rebif was approved, they took me off the Avonex and they put me on Rebif, which was 3 shots a week plus the Copaxone of 7 shots a week. So I was doing 10 shots a week. So do you want to feel pinpricked?
Yeah.
I was.
Wow. So how long were you doing that then?
I did that until 2009, and that's when I went on to Tysabri. And so I've been on Tysabri since.
Okay.
Wow. Very good.
I was when I was first diagnosed, and Dan as well. We both had our Avonex experience, and then you try all the medications. But fortunately, we're on the drugs that seem to be helping us now.
Yeah. So you said you were on Avonex?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you do it when you first had to mix it all up and put it together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were like a mad scientist.
That's right. And you had to stick that long needle into your leg and pull back up on the syringe and make sure there was no blood, right?
Yeah. And now, 25 years later, it makes my stomach turn. And I think, how in the heck were we strong enough? But I think that about so many things now that I'm older. I was so, when you're young, you're just,
Yep. So you two are very smiley. I'm glad to see that. So tell me, what makes a really good day for Dan, and what makes a really good day for Jennifer?
I mean, a really good day for me is just, one of the best things, Stuart, is I get up every morning and then I make the bed. And it's every morning I put the pillows on the bed and I just think, I can't wait until I can put my head on this pillow again, and just thinking of everything that I know I'm going to have to do at work, everything I'm going to have to go through, and then anything that's bad that you don't expect will happen and stuff. Whatever bad things will happen during the day, eventually, 16 hours from now, my head is going to be back in this pillow and I will have another day accomplished. And so I think that's just, those are good days, is just making it through. And I don't wish my days away, but it's just that anything that's you fear about the day, you just know that when you're in bed for the night, you're done for the day. And so that's for me is a good day.
Yeah. I think a good day is when you accomplish something. And for me, having lived with the disease as long as I have, if I feed myself dinner and I can get the fork to my mouth, or if I'm having a good hair day, that's a good day. But a good day when I can sit down with Dan and we can like watch TV or just like take a break. I think that that's good, but accomplishing and doing something that we enjoy makes it for a good day.
So that leads into my next question. What do you do to eliminate MS from the schedule, okay, and do something that you don't feel like you're living with MS?
For me, it's just getting out of work at night and cracking open a beer and just being able to just chill and just watching football. It's like last night we had absolutely no vested interest in the Monday night football game, but it's just like just watching football and being able and having a wife who enjoys watching football with me. And I think it's just MS is like part of who we are, but it's not the focus. It's like I always tell Jennifer, it's like I don't have control over the fact that I'm right-handed. It's just part of who I am. It's just like, and I don't want to like underestimate, belittle, and downgrade multiple sclerosis and its effect, but it's like that's just part of what I have to deal with every day. It's just part of, but not the focus. And so I think for me, it's just like just those other things that make you forget about the MS.
And for me, I saw shortly after I was diagnosed, I went to a support group meeting and we had a speaker that was a therapist. And he talked about multiple sclerosis when you're first diagnosed, that it's in the driver's seat. And that when you start to get a handle on the disease, before you know it, it'll be riding shotgun. Or maybe you can put him in the back seat. And on a really good day, he's in the trunk. Multiple sclerosis in the trunk. So for me, any day where like my MS is maybe riding shotgun or giving directions, but it's not driving the car. I'm still the captain.
That's a very good analogy. Very, very good analogy. I'm glad that you brought all that up. So let me ask you this. How do you actually handle your tough days when when your symptoms are really active? How are you handling this?
Tears. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I can speak for Dan because we've been married long enough and that's just me. He gets angry and I am reduced to tears and I'm not embarrassed to admit that. So, and I think we may all feel that way. So when it's totally whacking me down, I may get that way, but then I have Dan or my other, my family, somebody to help me realize you've got this.
And I do. I trash talk. I trash talk the disease a lot. And I think too, just prayers, music. I mean, just things that help to center you, and just and again distract you, and just a reminder that you're going to make it through this. It's just like I always feel that it's like, bringing back football again, but it's like, running back, and it's just like, just stick your head down and go. I mean, don't try and avoid it. You just got to stick your head down and power through the best you can. And then just know, and even if you get, taken for a loss, you did your best. And so, and I'm all about moral victories. I suppose being a younger brother, you learn to embrace moral victories and stuff. And I think that I'm not going to credit my older brother for teaching me that stuff, but I think it is just knowing that and embracing and celebrating every accomplishment.
Great.
We have to always think about, we have a support group member. I gave Dan COVID, so when he coughs, you can blame me, sorry. But we have a support group member who said, and he's older than us, every day I wake up above ground is a good day. So when I'm having the pity party or the difficult day, I know I can make it through because I'm still here.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm not trying to be a Pollyanna, but sometimes you just have to remember.
No, I think your words are great. I'm hoping that what you say is going to help others. And speaking of which, I see that there are other people that came on after we began the program. So if you have any questions for Dan or Jennifer, use the box with the arrow in it and just type on in and write out your questions. Right, I will get to them after I get to everything that I want to ask the two of them. But additionally, if anybody has anything that you want to type to join the conversation, I'll be glad to announce that as well. All right. If you feel that you've got something that you want to add to what they're saying about how you're handling your MS, just write it down and I'll call it out. And I'll be good. I'll be able to stay focused on what I have to speak with them about. Okay? That's why we have a pen and paper. Keeps me on track. Okay. All right. So you each spoke about what you do for yourselves, but what do you do for the other? Jennifer, what do you do to help Dan if he's having a really bad day? And Dan, you've already spoken about what you're doing with Jennifer, but I haven't heard from Jennifer what she does to help you get through your bad day.
I have a caregiver. I'm very fortunate. I have a caregiver during the day, and she drives and helps with activities of daily living so Dan can continue working. And if he's having a tough day, Stuart, I may run up to the grocery store and buy him some Twizzlers because he loves licorice. Or I will try and make sure that we have beer and peanuts after he gets out of work just so he can decompress. I try to do that, and we're a little bit yin and yang. When he's having a tough day, life has been fairly kind to us that if he's having a tough day, I can find strength to hold it together and vice versa. So I just try and help in whatever little way I can.
And then just to help Jennifer, it's just like, it's like being there for her and listening. I think it's just like being empathetic and letting her have her moments, and don't jump in. I think, and this is a learning lesson after 17 years, is like, it's not up to me to jump in and fix things for her. It's like most of the time she doesn't need me to fix. It's just like knowing when to just back off and listen.
Sure. And basically you've all answered my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because you might find something else to put towards it. But what do you feel is the best part of you two being married?
We have a built-in support system. I mean, he gets...
Wait. Do you have a crowd come in and give you a hooray?
No,
it's this support system. What are you talking about?
Dan gets multiple sclerosis, and I'm sure, we belong to support groups, and I know what it's like to hear members of our support group talk about when their spouse doesn't understand, when they're complaining about fatigue or numbness. Dan gets it, and so that's nice. Just that I don't have to explain, I'm really tired, or I don't want to go out because I'm whipped. I've had a really rough day. So that's nice that there's just a level of understanding that we have for each other.
Gotcha. So what is the worst things that you two have to fight or tolerate with each other at this stage of the game? And this is for anybody that's in any relationship, but this is also about what Dan and Jen are having to deal with living with each other, both having MS. So.
I think we've never fought in 17 years of marriage. The only time we come close to fighting is when one of us wants to be nicer than the other or nicer to the other person. I think so. There's there's that. But I mean, the toughest part is just, again, goes back to the knowing when to, you know, step in and be Mr. Fix-It versus backing off and just letting her deal.
And I don't want to paint the picture that we never disagree, and because we really don't. We can get snippy with each other when we're tired, or he will sometimes. I remember when we first got married, he was transferring me in the bathroom and I fell, and he was so angry. And I was laying there because I was on the bathroom floor and almost in tears, thinking, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And he had to tell me, I'm not angry at you, I'm angry at MS. So if we ever get short with each other, he's not mad at me, he's mad at the stupid disease. And we realize that to be angry with each other is wasteful. You know, it's so much easier just be mad at the MS, and that's our common enemy.
And I think that's just where, the communication and just understanding and, empathy and knowing that I'm not mad at her. It's just like, we had just gotten back from our honeymoon and here's my new wife on the floor because I didn't transfer. And so that's frustrating. But yeah, it is just that communication and just knowing I'm not mad at her. It's just like, because it's just the reality. We know we're both dealing with so much individually and then compounded with the spouse who's dealing with the same thing. And it's just like giving each other the grace, giving ourselves the grace to have those moments, those meltdowns. So,
are you able to share household chores? Are you able to, Jennifer, are you able to take, are you able to do some of them, especially when Dan's not up to it?
When my caregiver Jen is here, I'm very fortunate again. She can help me. We can go to the grocery store. We can do laundry. The smallest, silliest thing, Stuart, if our niece needs a graduation card or if we need to do something, pay a bill, I can do things like that. And so the small things add up to help Dan. And so I don't cook dinner, but I will shop for the groceries, or I will suggest, or meal
You suggest
plan.
you're good at giving orders, right?
Yeah, I'm good at giving orders, and
Right.
just, we just play up to each other's abilities.
I think it is. It's just playing up to your strengths and stuff, because I don't organize. And I tell friends, if you want anything of us, you want to get on our calendar, do this, don't talk to me. You got to email her because she maintains the calendar. She does all this. I know that if I'm low on deodorant or something, I need to tell Jennifer because she's got a running grocery list on her phone and she does. And so she knows. And so there's that. But I mean, but there's other things that I do that, as far as the household chores, the mowing, or getting people to mow and coordinating all of that. I mean, there's just like, it's almost like we naturally fit into what roles we play within the house.
Well, another question, what happens if you both get sick at the same time?
It's like ripped from the headlines because we just got done with COVID.
Right.
And that was scary. What can you do? You have to. I mean, there was an evening that I sat in my wheelchair and Dan laid on the recliner and we didn't move. We didn't have a choice. And, we were kind of hands tied, and that was frustrating. But again, we knew we would be okay. We had our cell phones. I had my medical alert, and we were just, really, MS gives you more reason to be patient than we had before, where you're just like, you just gotta trudge through it.
Guys, just like, when I get sick, and just recently with COVID, I mean, if I run a fever I'm wiped out. And it's like every MS symptom is exacerbated. Stuart, there was a night I was running a fever, middle of the night. I had to go to the bathroom. I could not walk. I couldn't stand. And then it's like, how does this happen? And so we're in bed and I'm like struggling, holding on to the dresser, the bed, trying to get there. And then Jennifer's just like, Dan, I've got a wheelchair sitting right there. Use that. But it's just like, but then if I'm sick and I can't stand, I'm not going to be able to help Jennifer transfer. I can't help her stand. And so then if she has to go to the bathroom, she has to hold it, until, that's the nice thing about living with MS. It's like we understand. And I know that as soon as the fever breaks, I'm back, I'm even at 80%, I can do that. And so it's just that being patient. So, and if she's sick, I mean, I need her to be able to stand. And if she's really sick, then it is just like navigating and, figuring it out as we go along. So it's scary when we're both sick, but if one of us is sick, it's like we manage. And Jennifer's caregiver, Jen, it's a godsend that she's at least able then to, or even just knowing you have that safety net that she can come in an emergency. And and you have lots of friends in town that can come and help if needed.
Great. You call her Jen because you're living with Jennifer?
Yes. Yeah, and she's always been Jen, and Dan's always called me Jennifer. So
Great. So can you tell us more about your recent battle with COVID? What did it do to you? You did mention that it made your symptoms worse. Could you tell us how it made it worse, and did it get better? Did your symptoms get better?
I was exhausted, and it was really quick. I can remember, much like people, probably every one of us living with MS remembers our diagnosis, everything that happened. But the Monday, I laid down and I was just going to take a nap. And I think 5 hours later, I got up. I don't normally sleep like that. So I was really tired. And then, not to be gross, but I was snotty. I mean, my nose was running.
What's so gross about snotty?
Yeah, I was snot faced.
Right.
If you've seen 80s movies, there's the character snot face. That's all I think of. And then I had a horrible sore throat, which is something to be aware of your body. I had changed medication to try a bladder medication. And I thought, oh, that drug's not working. In fact, I think it's giving me a sore throat. So I stopped taking it, thinking that's what it was. And it wasn't. Dan said, why don't you go to the walk-in clinic or call the doctor? And the doctor said, go to the walk-in clinic. And then I had the COVID test. And I was fortunate to have monoclonal antibodies, which they don't prescribe, which doctors don't commonly prescribe. I don't know.
Right.
But my doctor did. So I was just exhausted and had a really bad sore throat. How about you, Ben?
And and that she was, formally test positive on a Tuesday. And then that Thursday night's when I had my first fever. Then you go get tested on Friday and you're COVID positive. And so, I mean, I took, Friday off of work, and then you had the weekend, birthday to celebrate and have COVID. And then I took that Monday off as well. But again, if I wasn't running a fever, I was fine, and I think that the cough came, and I'll blame it too for the fall with allergies and everything, because I wasn't coughing during the COVID, but I think it was just a fever that would come sporadically, almost like unannounced, or you would feel it coming on. But that was really my only symptom. I mean, Jennifer lost her senses of smell and taste for 3-4 days, and she's better, but I didn't lose any of that. So and I think it really is just like, I don't want to say that COVID was MS's best friend, but they team up on you, and it wasn't cool, but I think we're over it now.
But it doesn't sound like any of your MS symptoms got any worse, because you're only speaking about things that are actually flu-related type.
Yeah, I think, as far as symptoms, my biggest symptoms are my hands and my feet are numb, and then the fatigue. But I mean, so then when that's running, then I can't stand. I mean, just Jennifer talked about then when her caregiver was going to come on a Saturday, and she normally doesn't, but just for 3 hours, just because I was sick. And, and so I just to put on a pair of shorts, and it took me 5 minutes because I could not lift my legs to put on shorts. And I think that's, the MS weakness and stuff, because yeah, it's just like but as far as anything else with my multiple sclerosis, yeah, it was just more the fatigue and, the lack of ability to walk and stuff, because normally I can walk, probably not as gingerly as I once could.
Or I understand that. So I had the COVID back in. I had it very badly in January, and for me, it cost me worse cognition than I've had beforehand. And I do have pretty bad cognition. I always had bad cognition. I can't remember how bad my cognition was. You get it? But it is far worse now, and it's very, very challenging right now to do certain things. I cannot get things done for work as quickly as I did. In fact, some of the things I have sitting on my desk, every day I have notes to do it, and I've been seeing those notes every day for over a month to get it done, and it's still not done. And it's just harder to do things because the COVID did cause worse cognitive problems for me. Plus my pain threshold. I mean, it was, you could probably say, about 70%, and on a scale of 1 to 100, which, for everybody, 1 to 100 means something different. But my pain threshold has gotten 20% worse with and since the COVID. So, for me, it's long COVID. And when somebody wants to talk to me about long COVID, I can definitely join in on this conversation.
Wow.
So let me go back to you, though. You keep mentioning work. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a creative writer for my company. It's Ruffalo Noah Levitt, and it's a higher ed marketing agency, and it's based in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is about a half hour from where I grew up. And I've worked with them for over 4 years now, and it's always been remote. And so, I mean, long before the COVID.
Sure.
And so, I mean, I work remotely full time. And so it's, managing production, things like that, emails, postcards, marketing materials. And so, but that's, a full-time job. And we try to structure it to be at least loosely 8 to 5 Central Time. The nice thing about working in the Eastern Time Zone, and I work 8 to 5 Eastern. So, or if I do 8:30 to 5:30. And if you have to work longer, but yeah, it's just like, and that's a nice thing, is like that ability to work from home in the back, bedroom, as our office. So that's that, it's demanding, stressful. I mean, especially now with the height of recruitment season for colleges and universities. And so, but I really like it, and it's a blessing and a godsend that we can do that remotely, and just be able to be here at the house, because Jen can't transfer Jennifer, I can transfer. So it's just like, and I always say that's like going to the water cooler and seeing your coworkers, and I go to help Jennifer and stuff, or come out and get coffee and whatnot. So that's the work that I do. And come 5:30, I'm exhausted, and so it's just like, then we just need to have that time to just breathe. And I think that's the blessing of Jennifer having the caregiver. So dinner's pretty well ready. I just have to heat it up when I'm done, because I think then that allows me to be able to take care of Jennifer at night as needed. So.
Good, good, good. And what about you, Jennifer? You doing any work from the house, or is just taking care of Dan work?
Dan's a piece of cake. I like advocacy, and I try and stay as involved with the MS community as possible. Really, when you're diagnosed, I think we all go through that period where you're scared and you're alone. And I feel maybe it's a sheepdog, a herding dog instinct in me. I just don't ever want anyone to feel like that. So I try and stay as engaged with the community as possible. And I'm kind of a big mouth in that I try and stay active with advocacy. I really, the program that I'm on makes it possible so that Dan and I can live together and have a married life.
Good.
And I think that that's really important to be involved with the community, the disability community here in Michigan. So that keeps me quite busy.
Great, good thing, good thing. You're jumping ahead too quick. You're like answering questions that I haven't even asked you yet. I'm joking.
I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that I have a little bit of mind reading.
Oh, good, good, good. Okay,
Good.
what am I thinking?
You're thinking, boy, what's my next question going to be?
You are absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Excellent.
So let me ask you this. You guys, I saw it on Facebook or somewhere, you just celebrated your 17th anniversary. That's a lot of years together since you were diagnosed. All right.
Yeah.
What do you see going forward? I mean, what is it that you want to do with each other? And how will you make it happen?
The best vacation I ever had, Stuart, is when I was younger and I just graduated from college, I went to Seattle, Washington, in Portland, Oregon, and it was the most beautiful trip ever. And so I would like to take Dan to see that part of the country. He's never been there. So I would like to do that. Or we have often talked about for our, when we're married 20 years, we would like to go back to Toronto, Canada, where we went on our honeymoon. So I see our future just staying as healthy as we can and as active as we can and traveling.
And I think a lot of it's just that, because there's big trips, but then it's like just every day, every month, just having those look forward to what's next, what keeps you engaged. And because, the 17 years and everything we've done, it all happened like organically, incrementally and stuff. And I think, for me, big Springsteen fan, and he's going out on tour again. And we've got tickets to see him in Detroit at the end of March. And so those are those things that just keep you engaged and going. And then once that hits, then there'll be another thing. And I think, it's always like just setting new goals and things. And what is it we want to do for the house? What do we want to do for ourselves? Where do we want to go next?
And someday we're going to get a pet. We had a cat when we were married pretty right away after we were married, and our cat unfortunately passed away. And we've talked about getting another pet, and we don't have children, but maybe a fur animal would be fun. But right now we like to travel, and you don't want to get an animal that you're not going to pay
When are you
attention
coming to Florida?
Oh, I would love to.
We would love to do that. That would be
I
amazing.
suggest you do that in the winter.
Yes.
Yes, that would
I
be.
suggest you do it in our winter because that'll be most likely your summer.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say, Dan, is that South Florida winters are like Michigan summers.
Oh yeah. So yeah, night right around the 70s.
No way. Not down here. You got the wrong climate.
Oh, wow.
It's rare that we get 70-degree days. Very, very rare. We get 70-degree nights, though.
Really?
Wow. I think I think it was up to 70s today, and now it's going to be down in the 50s for a high. So
Yeah.
That would be pretty incredible. So most of the time in South Florida, the temperatures average the low to mid 80s in the wintertime. But we do have 1 week usually every year where it gets into the 50s. And that you'll see people running around in South Florida wearing winter coats with big hoods on, and they got scarves all around their neck and big gloves on their hands, like as if you're in Michigan in the middle of the winter.
And Dan, it's cute, Stuart. We got married, and I was complaining about how cold it was. And I remember him saying, Jennifer, you don't know winter until you've been to Iowa. And we went to Iowa in the winter once. I will never go back in the winter. It was so cold and so windy.
Right.
So
we were just in, MSU's the News just did programs in August. We were in Rapid City, South Dakota at the beginning of the month, and we were in Sioux Falls, South Dakota at the end of the month. And I said, it was beautiful there. It was hot. It was nice hot for us because there was no humidity that we felt anyway. I mean, the people living there thought that there was humidity. But I cannot imagine what it's like there in the wintertime, though, being in the Dakotas. So it's not a place I want to be. Listen, I do have a couple of people. I have one person that I asked questions, and I'm sorry, that's going to have to wait till we're finished with all of our questions. But another one wrote a comment that Cindy wrote, these two are amazing. It's like two pieces of a puzzle put together in such an incredible, inspiring way. So I just wanted to let you know what at least one person is thinking, and I'm hoping that others listening to this call tonight are thinking the same thing. I'm feeling pretty inspired by the two of you as well. So tell me though, Dan, have you needed to do anything to change Jennifer? And Jennifer, have you had to do anything over these 17 years to change Dan?
To change him.
I don't.
You don't go to go first. You don't get to go first. Ladies go first.
All right. I just, she was like thinking, and I'm just like, well,
okay.
buy her some time.
All right, go ahead.
I met Dan at an MS conference in 2002. And my mom happened to be at the same thing. And I will never forget, we were driving home from the event, and my mom said, I think that boy liked you, talking about Dan. And I said, Mom, he likes baseball and Springsteen. Ugh. And so rather than change him and make him not like baseball and Springsteen, he's changed me. I went to a baseball game on my honeymoon with Dan, and I've seen Bruce in concert 8 times over the course, 8 or 9 times over the course of our wedding. So I would say that would be one way.
And then I grew up in Iowa, so, Big Ten football, right? So I'm an Iowa Hawkeye. She's a Wolverine. And so she's made me embrace Michigan football.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that Jennifer's made me, I'm conservative to a point, not conservative, but it's just like, I'm always like, I never want to spend money on myself. I always like, well, I don't really need this. And Jennifer's always like, just do it. And she says, you're worth it. And it's just like, so she's made me, just be more free with things and just embrace just life, I guess, rather than just like sitting back and saying, okay, well, I had a friend that used to make fun of me. We'd go like back in the day when you would CD shop, and I'd go and I'd look at a CD and say, this looks really good. I'll get it someday. And it's just like, and Jennifer just encouraged me. She's like, Dan, it's okay. So I wanted to buy an air hockey table when we were dating, and I found one. It was like $500, and it was just like, and I was talking to Jennifer about it, and I said, oh, but this is like 5 feet, but then there's one that's like 7 feet, but that's like $300 more. And Jennifer's like, Dan, if you're gonna spend the money, get the big one because you'll really enjoy it. So that just helped me realize it's like, yeah, get the bigger one. Just.
Well, I'm hoping you still have it because I love playing air hockey.
It's one of those things where and part of me wishes I know where it is. I gave it to my friend, and so I can always go to we just like you run out of room in your house and it's like, what's going to go? And so we just didn't play it as often as we thought. But if you ever come up, I know where it is and we can go.
Well, that's good, but you could have kept it at your house and it would have been a nice table to lay things out on.
It's interesting, Stuart, with my wheelchair. I don't want to say I'm a collector, but I have this chair that I'm in now, and then I have like a big wheelchair that I've had for probably 15 years that's beaten up, but that I can travel with. And those are big. And then I have a standing frame and I have a Hoyer lift. So there's just a lot of equipment. So as fun as it is to have an air hockey table, the equipment takes up a lot of room in your house
Of course
when
it
you're
does.
living with a disability. So,
Of course it does. I
yeah.
have a question for you all. For the single people that are out there watching this or that will be watching it later on, what do you recommend for people that are dating others or thinking about dating another person with MS and they having MS?
That is a part of me, but it's not the definition of me. And that I like Dan and I wanted to spend time with Dan. And so whatever Dan was going through, I knew that if I had the opportunity to figure it out with him, it would be worth it. And so hopefully if someone's dating and worried about that, that they will be dating someone who is worth it to figure it out and not be afraid about it.
And I think just always put your best foot forward and don't let MS be the focus of your relationship. I mean, obviously it's a part of it, but it's like, it's like you don't go to a job interview and apply for the job and continually point out your weaknesses. You want to show what are your strong points? What are why should we hire you? Well, then I'm going to give, and I always want to put my best foot forward. And obviously you need to be honest and when you're having bad days, but I always say don't ever give MS more attention than it deserves.
Yeah.
It's
Which is
just
your
like,
best foot?
yeah, it's just like, this is,
Which is your best foot?
my left, my right, actually, my left is I'm weak. I'm left side weak.
And you can tell in his shoes, his left foot is dragged quite a bit more. It's got
toe
more wear.
wears, yes.
Yeah.
But it is. It's
Mine, the
just
heel on one side is gone.
yeah. So you get it, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
I do get it. So another comment, a person wants to know what's your favorite Springsteen song and have you ever seen Bruce at the Jersey Shore?
Oh, I mean, and then a favorite Springsteen song. Sometimes it depends on the day, but the For You on the off his first album, Greetings from Asbury Park, For You is just like quintessential. Seeing Springsteen on the Jersey Shore, that actually, when I turned 40, Jennifer says, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go for your 40th? And I had said, I want to see Springsteen in New Jersey. Then we kind of rethought it, and it's just like we ended up seeing him at Wrigley Field in Chicago. So I'm like, do we really want to fly out to Jersey? Do we really want to do that? But I do want to go out to Jersey, just go to the boardwalk to see the, Save Tilly and all that other stuff, Madame Marie, that sort of stuff. But bucket list, I tell you.
Yep. Okay, so a couple of things. First, I am going to ask a question from Elisa because it's been long since she asked it, so I'm going to ask it. How did you guys meet?
As I said, I was involved with some women. I lived in the Flint area, Michigan, and there was we got together and we wanted to put a program about reclaiming the things that we put on hold after being diagnosed with MS. Just how to get your goals in order and how to straighten your life out. And it was intended for women. That was the program, but we forgot to put that on the invitation. And so men started to register, and Dan got a phone call from a woman with the National MS Society, who said, as men are registering, Dan, you're a support group leader. Why don't you go?
And so I showed up at the event, and that's, the event was like an hour and a half away from here, but it was a Saturday, and I'm thinking, sure. And the programs manager was at the registration table, and as we were talking, she says, you know what, why don't you go and sit at that table, because that's Jennifer's table, and you both are younger and lead a self-help group, and you'll have things you could talk about. And, she pulled up to the table, and I'm just like, I need to get to know this woman. And so, one thing led to another, and I got her email. She gave me her phone number, and then we started, talking, and just, and then we just started. You start dating, and I would go down to her because she lived with her parents, and I go down there on the weekends, and yeah, and then just everything took off from there.
And we realized that we could make it happen. I don't walk. Dan has never known me to walk. But this was what we wanted, and we knew it would take some work, but we could. Dan's incredibly strong physically and emotionally, and we wanted this, and we wanted to be like quote unquote normal people, and we wanted to be married. So
good. Congratulations on that. All right,
Yeah.
Next. What was my next? Do you have any worries about the future with your disease states?
I do, but I don't. I think, there's a lot of things that there's so much that can go wrong. There's so many unknowns. But I truly, you take it as it comes. I mean, you do everything you can to position yourself and prepare yourself, but there's just things that I'm not going to foresee. I'm not going to be able to fix now. And a lot of times you don't know what those are until you're faced with them, because it's like, I'm thinking, I was diagnosed when I was 27, and it's like, so if I was 25 years old and they say, what would your life look like if you have multiple sclerosis? And I would have been freaked out. And you're just thinking, I didn't know. And there's that, whatever that meme is say you don't know how strong you are until you're forced to do it, whatever that is. And so am I afraid? I could wake up tomorrow and not be able to get out of bed, because you don't know what the disease is going to do, but you don't put your life on hold because of it. And you find ways to adjust and adapt. And like when I get sick and can't get out of bed, well, what do? Well, you wait and you bide time, trust your friends. So am I worried? You're conscious of it, but it doesn't paralyze me, so to speak.
Sure.
Are you worried?
By nature, I would be a liar if I said I didn't worry. But there's a singer, and I wish I could think of what song it is. There's a line that worry is a waste. It's wasteful energy or something. And so I just, I put faith. I have incredible faith in Dan, and I have faith in myself that we'll figure this out. May not be pretty. I may not want other people to watch it when it happens, but we'll figure it out. I have to believe.
Great. So you've both been very active with your MS worlds, being supportive for others. What do you want to see accomplished by your work that you're doing, whether it be in groups or with your podcast? Well, we didn't get to your podcast yet, so let's hold off on that. But with your writing and your advocacy work, what do you want to see happen there?
I don't want people to be as scared and confused. I want to take the fear away from MS. I mean, for heaven's sake, Stuart, I got married after I was diagnosed. I lost my ability to walk, and I met this handsome man. I got my graduate degree after my MS diagnosis. I just want people to know that life can still happen. May not be the exact picture that you had in your mind, but change your view a little, and hopefully you can make it happen.
And I want just the voices that the stories out there, the experiences to show that it is possible. And I mean, it's not easy. I don't want to sugarcoat it, but it's just like, just show that things are possible. But it's like it's like believe in yourself, believe in, and it's not all on you. It's like believe in, your team, the people that you're surrounded with, and you put the trust and faith in them. And so I just want to show just being more examples. I can't lecture, and I have the experience to show. I can't, I don't have a degree in MS, but I have lifetime.
Why not?
Well,
you have initials to go with it.
Well,
you have RRMS behind your name.
I have an MA. But I think but it is. It's just like my credits did transfer when I tried to get my degree in MS. So, but it is. It's just like, just believe in yourself. And I just wanted to show people that things are possible. Just do it. I mean, just give it your best shot.
I bulldozed my way through, like Jennifer was talking about earlier. And from the time I was diagnosed, and I just put my 2 feet on the ground and I said, I'm going to do it. And I within 6 months of being diagnosed, I was asked to chair the Coral Gables MS Walk in Miami. I did that for 5 years. And during those 5 years, because I was doing so well with it, the MS Society asked me to also take on chairing the Fort Lauderdale Walk. And I did that for 2 years while doing the other one for 5 years. And then, it got to be to the point where the MS Society wasn't doing enough down here for the MS community other than doing fundraising. So people asked me if I can find a way to provide educational programs. And so, then people asked me, hey, why don't we start an organization? And I said, that seems like a lot of work, but here we are. It's 13 years later now, and coming up on 13 years, and we've held over 700 educational programs during this time. All right, and it's just a matter of like you were saying, you don't live with your MS, and I tell people that I taught MS to live my life, and if it doesn't like it, then get the heck out of here,
Absolutely.
And I've said worse words than that, but I'm not going to say the words online anyway. All right, but I live everybody else's MS. I don't live my MS. So, I like to do what I'm doing, and I found a way to keep myself obviously very busy. And this is why I like running around the country, just doing and keeping myself totally occupied with all this. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So, Dan, tell me about your podcast. What got you started on doing this? And tell us about what it is and how people can, listen to them.
We had our blog for 12, 13 years, and then podcasts got to be a big thing, and so we listened to podcasts, and we had done something with MSNME Radio, and it was really recording more of a conversation with the two of us. And I write for a living, but it's just like, I'm obsessed with writing, and Jennifer will say I'm a perfectionist with it. And so the writing just takes time, where it's just like, if we can just sit down and have a conversation about topics, MS, things, that we just really wanted to have that conversation. And so we actually had a friend of ours who volunteered and said he wanted to produce a podcast and thought we would have a good story to share. And so we just started doing that. I think we're like 40, we just recorded our 40th episode. That'll be coming out soon, but it's on, it's a Couple Takes on MS is the name of the podcast.
What's it called?
A Couple Takes on MS.
Okay.
And it's the same thing as our website, a couple takes on ms.com, and you can access it through the website and through Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everything. And so it's really just a conversation between Jennifer and me, our podcast producer Ryan. We started figuring out, yes, you can interview people, and so we've interviewed a couple people, and just really looking forward to making it more engaging. I wanted to have something that I wanted a podcast that I would listen to, so we try to keep it shorter. But you know, you let the content drive the length and everything. So
That's great. I have a great new topic for you. It's called Stu's Views.
you want to?
Stu's Views. I need to write a book, but I don't have time.
It is. It's a lot.
A video book would be great too, but I would really need I need a ghostwriter, and so either a ghostwriter or to do it as a video, a podcast on Stu's Views.
I think you should do it.
I want to call it the roller coaster of life.
It is.
You know, all the ups and downs, the twists and the turns, and everything else. So
I think you should. We'll help you get there.
we are going to talk about this. Okay, we are definitely going to talk. So, Elisa or Alyssa, I'm done with my questions. So I'm going to read now the things that people are saying. And Alyssa writes, "Wow, your story's so uplifting. Wish I could find a Dan." Well, I think that my skin is tingling for this, and I hope yours is also. I mean, I think that's a great way of looking at it. And I'm sure that there are many out there. There are guys on here too that they might be saying, "I wish I could find a Jennifer," all right, or a Jen, or whatever you want to call yourself today, right? Helene writes, "This was wonderful and inspirational. Thank you so much." Cindy again writes that this is the way that people should be living. Okay, and it is great. So, you know, I'm glad that you were able to bring. I'm glad that I was able to get the two of you online. I knew it was going to be great. So I can't wait to get this archived on our YouTube channel, where then we can, you know, really show it off to the rest of the world that did not hear this. But I'm sure you can, you know, put it on your podcast channel as well. So
Absolutely.
I want to thank you both for being here.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
This was fun. We really hope it helps.
And Stuart, the one thing I will say about Dan, he is awesome. And
Really?
people are worried that they will not be dated because they have MS, but they have to provide that same grace to somebody that's living with the disease. You know, if you wouldn't want someone to not date you because you have MS, don't be afraid to date somebody that has the disease yourself. I mean, it's a great way. Well, there's nearly 1 million people in the United States living with MS.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I just want to say that.
Quick question. Dan, what flavor is Jennifer?
I would say, could I say like Neapolitan? I'm talking ice cream. I'm just like, she's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, she's everything.
Fine. That's fine. And Jennifer, what are you going to say about Dan? What flavor?
I'm going to say vanilla. He goes with everything.
That's
perfect
great.
Compliment to whatever you're in the mood for.
That's absolutely fantastic. All right. I want to thank you both for being here. I want to thank everybody that's been online tonight. Take care. Be well. Toodles.
All right. Take care.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.